Welcome to the podcast. It's the magical holidays. Time for Joe watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. Why, you might ask? Because it sounds like a crazy task to be watching 60 Christmas movies in 60 days. It'll be struggle, no I won't lie. By the halfway point I will lose my mind, but with your support I'm gonna be fine. So let's have a blast on this Christmas time. Join me now and let's find out about today's Christmas movie. Was it good or bad? Happy or sad? Is there another dead mom and dad? Let's get to it with no delay. It's your old pal Joe and he's happy to say welcome to Joe watches 60 Christmas movies in 60 days.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to episode 21 of Joe Watches 60 Christmas Movies in 60 Days. We are officially in the second third of our season. As if you've listened to episode 20, you will know that this is the middle of 3 recordings that I'm doing in a row. I have 3 recordings I'm doing in a row because I fell behind by 1 day. And I'm not gonna let that hold me up. I'm not gonna let that, mess with my head. We're gonna record and record and record, and then we're gonna be ahead again. And this is the middle recording, episode 21. Before we talk about today's movie, Lost at Christmas, let us mention our good friends over at Third Eye Comics. Third Eye Comics is your headquarters for all things comics and pop culture, whether you want some plastic statues of your favorite characters, you want some books, you want some graphic novels, maybe you want something to do in the world of gaming, a board game or a role-playing game. Maybe you want a movie or you want some music on vinyl. They have you covered, especially at their Annapolis headquarters where all 3 stores exist. But don't just rely on having to go to one of their stores. You can purchase things from them anywhere across the United States and beyond using their website shop.thirdeyecomics.com. If you have the means and you have the interest, please stop by their website and see if you can find something that might bring you some joy. And the waning days of fall as we enter the cold winter. That's not true. It's still mid-November. We got a ways before we're officially in winter, but you get my point. Support Third Eye Comics as a thank you for them supporting me to make this season possible at all. Take care, and take care. It's not the end of the episode, Joe. What? I'm leaving that in. What was my brain doing? Take care. Well, anyway, that's it for the sponsor part. Let's talk about the movie Lost at Christmas. Lost at Christmas was pretty all right. This is the second movie I've watched that had a much longer longer length than others. And you can see that it's not a made-for-TV movie like so many of the ones I've been watching. It is, in fact, a proper movie that was made for, release in theaters or, other means. Wherever you would see a proper movie and not just a made-for-TV movie. And it's the second movie that I've watched like this. The first was The Christmas Checklist. And both of these have a really unique feel to them, a unique quality, and they're both pretty okay. I liked them both, I think. And maybe that's telling me something about movies that are a little bit longer. Maybe I need to go outside of the made-for-TV milieu and see what else is there for me. Because Lost at Christmas, pretty all right, guys. I enjoyed it. Some strong performances in this relatively small overall movie. We open on a snowy Scottish town. A young lady wearing a very festive, possibly Mrs. Claus, inspired outfit, wields a guitar case and stops by a shop to buy a gift. As she exits, her scarf is blown away by the wind. She chases after it until it's caught by a guy who snatches it out of the air. He hands it over and she expresses her thanks. This lady is our main character, Jen. The guy who caught the scarf, that's our other main character, Rob. They don't know it yet, but they're going to be smooching by the end of this film. Jen catches a cab. We follow her for a bit and then rejoin Rob, who is with his girlfriend. They head to a winter wonderland type event. We see that he's holding on to an engagement ring in his pocket. His girlfriend gives him an early Christmas gift. It's a watch with a built-in compass so that he will always find his way. He decides that must be the time, so he pulls out the ring box, he drops to a knee and begins his proposal, but his girlfriend cuts him off. She's not ready. She's not ready to get married. He says she said the same thing 3 years ago. She says she knows, but it's still true. She loves him, but she thinks that maybe she's just not in love with him. He says, well, where is this going then? She doesn't know. She walks away, leaving him on one knee, brokenhearted. Back over to Jen, who is getting dropped off by her taxi at a nice little house. She's very much in the Christmas spirit and even jokingly tries to play the taxi driver with gold chocolate coins. But he doesn't get it, and he just wants his money. Anyway, she knocks on the front door of a nearby house, and a little kid answers. He asks if she's an elf. Then his mom joins him and asks how they can help her. Jen is confused by seeing these people in this house. That is not who she expected. She wonders if maybe she's at the wrong place, maybe she's lost. But then a guy walks up, and she does recognize him, and she knows exactly what's going on. This is her boyfriend, a.k.a. the father to this family, the husband to that woman. He has lied about being married and having a family, and Jen didn't know any of it until she surprised her boyfriend for a special Christmas celebration. The guy tries to pretend that Jen is just her work friend, but she punches him right in the face. The kid, not seeing the punch because he was going to get something, he comes back and he has a letter for Santa that he would really like Jen to give to Santa Claus if she can. She's kind of caught off guard because her world is falling apart right then as this is all happening. But she still has the wherewithal to kindly accept the kid's letter and promise him that it'll get to Santa. Jen walks away in tears. We cut to a train station where we see Rob sitting on a bench in the rain. He's waiting for his train. Jen walks up carrying her bags of gifts and a guitar case. She screams, "Bastard!" at the top of her lungs and collapses to the ground in tears. We see Rob looking at her, and she clarifies, "Not you, although all men are bastards. No offense." He says, "No offense taken." He's staring at the engagement ring in his hands. Jen notices and says, "You don't look too happy for a man with an engagement ring." He ignores her statement and says, "I think we missed the last train for the day." He's been waiting for 2 hours. Turns out both of them are heading to Glasgow. Neither of them have anywhere locally to stay. Jen finally introduces herself, and Rob reluctantly replies. Jen says this is supposed to be the best time of the year to make new friends. She rambles on about how Christmas is supposed to be magical, a great time of the year. He notes that she talks a lot. She says, "I'm just trying to fill the dead air." She asks why he's there. He simply says that things didn't go the way he planned. Jen suggests that they team up. They're both stuck here. They're both heading to the same place in Glasgow. So maybe they can figure out a way to get there together. He's not interested, but then reconsiders. She decides that they should call a taxi company. He tells her it's a terrible idea. No one's going to come and get us. It's like 3 hours to get to Glasgow from here. This is when she pulls out her phone, and we see that she's broken it by throwing it on the ground in disgust. This does not come up again. It just seems like an odd aside to have her phone be broken. Anyway, the taxi company laughs at her when she requests her trip to Glasgow. I mean, like, literally you hear the person on the phone cackling. She asks Rob if he has anyone who could pick them up. He says, well, my parents might, but they're on a Christmas cruise, or as he puts it, just a cruise. But we know they're called Christmas cruises. Just then, Jen gets an idea. She heads back to her ex-boyfriend's place. We can hear him arguing with his wife inside. She sneaks in and looks around. There's a lot of fanciful music while she noses around. Eventually, she finds what she's looking for in the coat closet, and that is her ex-boyfriend's car keys. She returns to Rob and shows him the car that she's procured. It's a very fancy sports car. What's wild is that there's another car there that's less fancy and just more normal, and they're choosing to take that one, or at least Jen is choosing to take that one. Cut to them driving on an icy road. He's curious why she was waiting for a train if she had a car available just a few blocks away. She explains, well, actually, it's my ex's car. And he goes, well, the breakup must have gone pretty well if he's letting you borrow his car. And she goes, well, he doesn't really know that I borrowed it. He'll find out, though. He'll be fine with it. Rob freaks out. We stole the car? She starts ranting about how he deserves it, how awful her ex-boyfriend was, speeding up the whole time. He yells for her to stop, just as a deer jumps across the road. Jen apologizes for losing her cool. He offers to drive, but she says, I have it under control. While they're stopped in the middle of the road after this tumultuous moment, a police officer drives up, and at first he's suspicious of them. It's like, so what are you guys doing out here? You know, just in the middle of the road. The weather's starting to get bad because it's starting to snow. Because remember, it was raining earlier, but now it's starting to snow. And also, they're in a stolen car, but he doesn't know that yet. He's basically like, what are you guys doing out here? Are you sure you want to be out here? And Jen is very open. Like, oh, no, we're doing fine, officer. Thank you for checking on us, while Rob is quietly freaking out in the passenger seat. But eventually the police officer just lets them go with a warning that they should probably turn back before they go any further because the weather is going to get much worse. Jen tells the officer that they're going to take their chances, and the officer leaves them to their fate. She tells Rob it'll be fine, but he makes her promise that they'll turn around at the first sign of things getting too bad. Jen agrees. A driving montage ensues as they drive on roads ever more encased along the snowy fields. We jump to them stuck in the snow. The road is invisible due to the fallen snow. Rob loses his shit. He told her he knew they should turn back. They were even warned by the police officer. And now they're going to freeze to death in the middle of nowhere. He says, you know what? I haven't known you for too long, but I can tell you don't listen to anyone. The train, the taxi, and now you almost killed us in the middle of nowhere. Jen is overcome by this negativity and just feeling bad in general. She starts breaking down. She starts crying. And instantly Rob feels bad for what he's brought on. He begs her to calm down. And she does. She stops crying on cue, almost as if she can do it on command, because she admits she can do it on command. She says it's even a bit of a party trick she uses. And then she says that Rob is really mean. You can't speak to people like that. Rob resumes losing it himself and screams as loud as he can into the distance. Jen and Rob start bickering about what to do next. They decide to start walking down the road to a possible village somewhere in that direction. We jump ahead to them in their walk, and she asks about what happened to Rob to leave him at the train station the way she found him. He doesn't want to talk about it, so instead he asks about her story. She also doesn't want to talk about it, so they decide to stop for a minute and, I guess, not talk. He pulls out his new watch with the compass and says, I think we went ahead in this direction over here. And off they go. Eventually, just as night hits, they arrive at a village. They arrive at an inn and ask about a tow to get the car out. They left the... Did I say that? I don't think I mentioned that. Yeah, I guess I did. I just blacked it out. Yeah, they're stuck in the snow. The car won't go anymore. And so then they decide to walk. They eventually find their way to an inn. They ask the people about getting a tow. And the person says, yeah, no problem. We can get you a tow, but it won't be until Boxing Day, a.k.a. the day after Christmas. So instead, they ask for a room and find out there's only one room left with one bed. Rob doesn't want to take it for whatever reason. He's really, weirded out by the idea of sharing a bed with this stranger that he's just met. I mean, I get it, but it seems stronger than just normal reaction. But that's the only choice they have. So they take the room. As they walk to the room, they run into a teenage boy shouting at his mom, who comes out to scold him for his behavior, especially in front of strangers. She apologizes to Jen for the commotion, teenage boys and all that, and Rob says he understands. Men are the worst, after all. And so this is kind of a joke, him calling back to when Jen said that all men are bastards. We jump ahead a bit. Jen has taken a shower, but Rob is hesitant to follow suit. He says he doesn't have anything else to wear. Jen says, I have something you can wear. A gift that will never be delivered. He seems really uncomfortable to be there with this woman that he doesn't really know that well, and he goes to the bathroom and we see him take a long look at himself in the mirror. As he showers, we can see both of them. We cut back and forth between the two people, contemplating the day that has been. Eventually he comes out wearing his new clothing, a very outrageous Christmas sweater that can even light up. Somewhere during the getting undressed and getting dressed, his ring box has fallen out of his pocket and Jen finds it and picks it up for him, but he snatches it away and then apologizes for snatching it. She asks if he wants to talk about it. He says he absolutely does not. Instead, they decide to go down to the inn's restaurant to see if they can get any food. They make conversation with a couple of older guys who are willingly spending their Christmas Eve there. We find out they've been pals for 62 years. A band plays as Jen and Rob find a space in a faraway booth. The band isn't playing Christmas music. Rob suggests that maybe Jen might be able to help them find something else to play, because she does have her guitar after all. Jen says she's not very good. She did jam with her ex, though, the one that she caught cheating. Well, caught with his family, I guess. Rob presses her to go get her guitar up in the room. He'd love to hear her sing. She says she doesn't really have it in her, though. Jen changes the subject, asking Rob what he does for a living. We find out he's a finance manager. Jen heads to the bathroom, and inside she finds a young lady doing her makeup a bit heavily. We find out that the young man that we saw earlier yelling at his mom is also at this bar/restaurant. And she seems keen on him and kind of wants to leave a good impression, so she's gone to the bathroom to kind of do her makeup up. But Jen thinks that maybe she's putting on the makeup a little too heavily, so she kind of helps her pull it back some and look as good as she can. That sounds like a backhanded compliment, but I don't mean it that way. She also encourages the young lady to go for it. So if he says no, he's an idiot. But if she doesn't go for it because she's scared, then she's the idiot. The girl seems encouraged. When Jen returns from the bathroom, she tells Rob the story of her now ex, about how she found out that he was married and they'd been together for 5 years, which is just crazy. Anyway, they met at an open mic night. She thinks she should have seen it with all the clues that she can now identify in retrospect. They even talked about getting married, and then she finds out about the secret family. She asks Rob for his tale, but he still doesn't want to talk about it. He'd just rather forget that this day happened. He goes to get them drinks, and Jen starts to fall apart, crying to herself in the booth. Eventually he returns, and Jen apologizes for pushing him to tell his story. He says it's okay, he just doesn't really know Jen. And she's caught off guard with this because of all the time they spent together, the night that they spent together, although not that one. Actually, no, they haven't spent the night there yet. But you know what I'm saying. She's just like, all of a sudden, he's putting distance between them. But she says, no, that's fine, I understand. But for whatever reason, her understanding actually gets him to tell the story. He and his ex met in high school. He brought up the idea of marriage a few times, but properly proposed 3 years ago. She told him she wasn't ready and made him feel like they both weren't ready, so he waited. Until today, when he got the same answer, and then we saw the bit about her. She said she's not really in love with him. He wondered how he got there. Was it ever real love, or was it just familiarity that they'd known each other for so long? Was it convenience? Unfortunately, Rob doesn't have the answers, but he does know 12 hours ago he had everything at his fingertips. Now, it's all he's got is frostbite. Jen feels bad and reaches across the table to hold his hand, and at first he's taken aback, but then he reciprocates and holds her hand. Then the band starts playing something up-tempo, and Jen leads Rob to the dance floor. They have a nice time. We also noticed in the background Jen getting the girl that was trying to talk to the young boy, gets her to go over and talk to the young boy. And they start dancing too. Back to dancing with Rob, Jen says, since we're stuck in here, since we're stuck in this bubble, we may as well forget about what happened in the outside world. We may as well forget about the bad things that we've dealt with and just enjoy what we have here. Rob enjoys this idea, and they keep dancing, and then they almost kiss, but then he literally sees his ex's face in place of Jen's face, and it shakes him up, and he runs off. Jen grabs a couple of drinks and chases after him. She finds him outside lighting a cigarette he got from a machine. He says he used to smoke and it sounded like a good idea, but this thing tastes terrible. Jen then notices what time it is, and they count down to midnight when suddenly it's now Christmas. She wishes him a Merry Christmas, and he returns the favor. She says we should toast to the stranded, the deserted, the lonely, the abandoned. No, then she concludes, to strangers. He agrees. They clink glasses. They chat a bit about love and whether it was real, whether they missed it, and it results in them getting closer and closer. I mean this physically, closer and closer. Eventually they go to kiss, but then Rob's phone rings. It's his ex. Jen, with tears in her eyes, says, I'm going to go to bed. Rob doesn't answer his phone. Jen says, no, you should call her back. Find out what she wanted. It is Christmas after all. Rob then gets a little mad. He goes, stop acting like Christmas is going to fix everything. It's not fixing anything. It's just a day. A miserable shit day like all the others. Jen has heard enough and says she's going to go to bed now. We cut to her in bed and him sitting at a darkened bar. She waits for him, but eventually he turns out the light. The next morning, Rob remains at the bar and everyone else is there now. Jen comes downstairs and asks if he's been there all night. He has. She asks if he called his ex back. He did not. Then Jen turns to the group at large and says, you know what, we're going to have a great Christmas together. Like she tells the proprietor of the pub, set 10 spaces, however many people there are, 10 spaces at the table. We're going to have a Christmas dinner. But there's one woman there who's been sort of a buzzkill throughout the entire movie. Like whenever she runs into one of our main characters, she says something kind of snarky. She kind of cuts them off at the knees. And when she hears this, she gives Jen a hard time. Quit trying to force Christmas upon us. A lot of us came here to get away from this sort of thing. She doesn't want any part of any Christmas dinner. Jen storms off, kind of sad for being, taken to task in front of everyone. And when she's gone, Rob lashes out at everyone. You might be here by choice, but she is stuck here. It's her favorite day of the year, and she wants to spread a bit of joy. Shame on all of you. And he walks out as well. The young lady who Jen helped the day before with her makeup says, I could go for some Christmas. We find out that she's there with her dad, and it kind of comes up. Basically, she chose to have Christmas with her dad because she doesn't feel like she spends enough time with him. And they just so happen to be stuck at this bar, or maybe that's where they chose to go. I don't know. But basically, it's not like everybody else who's kind of get away from their barren lives or their sad stories. We find that Jin went outside, and one of the regulars brings out a coat for her and tells her not to take what the woman said personally. We find out that that woman's wife died in a car accident this year. Jin is thrown at this announcement. She feels terrible. It's that woman's first Christmas without her partner, and Jin's like, and here I am trying to make her celebrate Christmas with like it's some special thing when she's heartbroken. The guy talks about how everyone goes through their own thing, and how he lost his own wife. He also mentions that he sees a connection between her and Rob. Jin's not sure, though. They might just be ships passing in the night. She decides to head off for a walk by herself. Back inside the bar, Rob finds out from that same regular that Jin went for a walk by herself, and he rushes to find her. He's suddenly worried that she's going to get lost. And sure enough, she does get lost in the woods, the snow-covered ground kind of obscuring where she came from and how to get back. He calls out to her, and he calls out to her. He's ambling along the uneven ground. Eventually, he calls out, and she replies. He finds her. They find each other in the wood. He apologizes for everything that's gone wrong. He also says that he's not sure if their paths were ever meant to cross, but she makes him feel warm inside. He starts to continue talking, but she gives him a big old smooch. Then they stare at each other for a moment. Back at the pub, when Rob and Jen arrive, they find that everyone has set up a big Christmas dinner for them. Jen is really touched. Everyone takes a seat. Then the woman who snapped at Jen walks out with a full Christmas turkey. Turns out she's a chef, and she apologizes for what happened earlier. Everyone is filled with cheer, and they enjoy a nice Christmas dinner with strangers. After dinner, they find out that the band can't make it that night, and Jen decides to step up with her guitar. She tells everyone they worked so hard to give her a Christmas, so she might as well ruin theirs with her performance. Everyone laughs. She takes her guitar and tells everyone that she knows that wrapping your pain in tinsel doesn't work, and that she's sorry if she made it hard for anyone, but her worst Christmas ever has now become her best. And that's because people care. She then sings a song for everyone, and everyone loves it, and they clap. Rob even has tears in his eyes. He walks up and gives her a big old kiss in front of the room. We cut to them in bed together, still kissing, and we get a montage of them chatting, smooching, and simply existing throughout the night. The next day, we find them aboard a bus holding hands. Eventually, they arrive in Glasgow and come to the point where they must part. He thanks her for bringing her home. He thanks her for bringing him home, much happier than she found him. She starts to say something that kind of would extend their relationship, or maybe just the time together in that moment. And he goes, "I think we should both just get to where we're going," meaning like their families. Jen thinks and says, "Yeah, that sounds good." They kiss again. He says, "See you around." She says, "See ya." They go their separate ways, but then we see both of them stop and think with their backs to one another, but then they both continue along their way. The end. And I don't think I did a very good job with this movie. In fact, I don't think I'm doing a good job at all this season. I feel like I'm doing a terrible job taking notes, and I'm doing a bad job of talking about these movies, but that's the thing that I'm dealing with. We're going to plow ahead. And this was an alright movie. I enjoyed it. If you find yourself wanting to watch a movie set in Scotland about Christmas, that's actually a Christmas movie with some pretty good acting from interesting characters, check out Lost at Christmas. You can find it on all of your free sites and enjoy. Who's the MVP of this movie? I'm going to give it to Jen. I thought she was really good in this movie. I think that it started out with her being very saccharine and overly sweet, and made me not really enjoy her character too much. But then as the movie went on and we saw more and more depth to her character and more of like the underneath was revealed, I think it paid off, and I really enjoyed her journey from beginning to end. And that's it. This might be the shortest episode I've ever done, but I got to get through them all, man. I can't dilly-dally. So the second of 2 recordings is finished, and I'll leave you for now. I'll talk to you again tomorrow for episode 22. Until then, enjoy some Jingle Bells, my friends. Bye-bye.